with the UC Berkeley Institute of South Asian Studies at Stanford University Center for South Asia. I thought that was novel. Yes. We welcome you all to the Sala Festival. My name is Kirti Mehta. Typically in Indian culture, we employ the use of colloquials to add a sense of fun to our conversation, right? To name a few, we'll say things like happy shappy, Hina Shina, Khana Wana. Well, today's topic is no different. We are extremely excited to bring to you Wine, Chime, and Chicken Quran. You may have been able to deduce by now that this conversation is going to center totally around food, and as it should. Food plays such an integral role in our lives, be it the everyday form of sustenance, cooking meals for our children and family and friends, and all the way up to the most exquisite experiences that tantalize our taste buds. These moments are enhanced when seated in the romanticized setting of restaurant tables. We have beautifully curated plates and paired with delectable wines, all the while enjoying some sort of most momentous human occasions with friends, colleagues, and when they behave themselves, our children too. The panelists we have for you today have achieved a mastery in this round. We are very lucky to have with us restaurateur Aisha Hubbard, Chef Srijit, who should be joining us any moment, Vintner Neeta Mittal, and Chef Ranjan Dey. We also have our very own Ritu Marva to moderate, yes. And before we bring them up, well, they're already seated, sorry. So a little bit of, never mind. We'll shine light on their incredible journeys with the culinary world. Our first panelist, Aisha Robert, had an illustrious career in our business at the helm of several conglomerates, spanning from India all the way to the Big Apple and Miami. Aisha possesses an insatiable creative side that manifested in the forms of an exquisite jewelry line, restaurants, as you will hear, and a handful of concepts, including a sustainable packaged food company that I'm sure we are all very excited to see come out in coming to fruition. Second, we have chefs whose love of cooking stems from the roots of his grandmother's garden in Kerala, India. As these roots began to strengthen, so did Chef Srijit's understanding of food and how to maximize every square inch of the plants, infused with the love only a grandmother could provide. Chef Srijit went on to be an executive chef at the Taj in San Francisco, where he earned 2 Michelin stars. He's also the executive chef and co-owner of the Taj with Aisha Power. Chef Srijit's diverse training and worldly experience has allowed him to create plates with a remarkable fusion between contemporary and classic Indian and Californian styles. And most importantly, Grandma's teaching with his own creativity. Our third panelist is Vintner Neeta Mittal, whose love of wine is as poetic as her depiction of her travels around the world. Inspired by the cinematic views of Tuscany, Bordeaux, Australia, and Chile, Neeta found herself setting up shop in the lovely Paso Robles. As one of the first Indian women to own a winery in the US, Neeta allowed her experiences to provide fertility to the soil, in which she would create her own wine. One that I'm very much looking forward to tasting. Fine. Whenever Neeta. Our fourth and final panelist, Chef Ranjan Dey, has a story very familiar to one of my very favorite chefs, Gagan. Starting his culinary career at a very young age, Chef Dey traveled across the world to hone his craft and eventually commence a documentary series where he takes viewers on a cultural and culinary travel adventure through India. He would also go on to create New World Spices, a special blend of 6 different spices inspired by kings and queens from ancient India. Last but certainly not the least, we have our moderator, Ritu Marva. Hello.
Hello.
She is an award-winning author and a fellow at USC's Annenberg Center for Health Journalism and UCLA's Laboratory for Environmental Heritage Strategies. Ritu began her career under the tutelage of Camellia Punjabi, the doyen of Indian cuisine. She worked alongside Camellia to open 3 Taj hotels in Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai. In her position as head of the European office of the Taj Group of hotels, Ritu has had up close and personal look into the UK's curry revolution. I'm in awe of the sheer talent we have for you today. Let's put our hands together and give a warm welcome to our ambassadors for and here to take on our foodie excursion is Ritu Marwa.
Yes, that is me.
And could I?
Yeah.
I don't think we need the mic.
Yes, we need to turn off your phones, please, so that we get started in silence.
So we are going to know more about Srijit before he comes. So that is going to be pretty good. We can talk of him while he's not here.
Yeah.
So I would like to welcome Ranjan, Aisha,
Anita,
and to wine, Chime, and chicken karana. But I don't want the vegetarians to feel that we won't have a very special, stimulating, and salivating experience. So at the outset, I also want to tell our panelists that many amongst us are very jealous of you because we've all desired to have a food business of our own. I think there's no one who doesn't have this dream of having their own restaurant. So a block and a half from Union Square in San Francisco is the oldest Indian business, and that is a Maharaja's private banquet room with elegant pillars and exotic tiles, and that is Ranjan's New Delhi restaurant, and it opened in 1988. So when you enter the doors of New Delhi restaurant, you are transported to a different world. And his wife owns it with him. His wife's not here, but I thought she might be, so I'd throw that in to make her happy.
thank you very much.
And then in Silicon Valley, not very far, 45 minutes south of New Delhi, in Palo Alto, is the new kid on the block, which has opened with Aisha and the missing chef Srijit, who should be here shortly. And Aisha and chef Srijit opened in the middle of the pandemic. So it's a new age restaurant. If you haven't been there, which I don't believe there's no one in this room who hasn't been there, it's just spectacular. It's kind of your Instagrammer's dream. The design is fabulous. And after I read Aisha's bio, I realized because she's such a great designer. You have design in success in jewelry and buildings, and you worked. So I'm not surprised that Itan is so beautiful. And so between the two chefs, we have the Epicurean history of the Bay Area Indian restaurant in 1988 to.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Itan. So, Itan is also ETTAN, and I should ask Aisha what it means. So between them, we'll have a lot of questions about how Indian restaurants have started, when Ranjan started to when Aisha started, and how things have changed between them. And then we have Neeta, a woman who started a wine business in the valley. So that should be really interesting. So I'm going to start with Ranjan as to when you opened the doors, who was your client? Who came to your restaurant?
When I opened the door in San Francisco, it was while I was owning 4 other New Delhi restaurants in Hong Kong. So when I opened the door, I had made several kind of like investigation in New York, in Chicago, in LA, and Las Vegas. I love the city of San Francisco because it's nice and small. It's 7 by 7. And the people there are amazing because they are open to possibilities, every kind of possibilities. They are also a part of the history where India has been there from the hippie movement, from Ravi Shankar, from the Silicon Valley coming up. So people were used to understanding Indian culture, Indian cuisine, and open to trying new experiences. And then Union Square, 1.5 block from Union Square, cannot be a better location because our main clients were from 25,000 hotel rooms, then all the offices, then all the people coming for shopping, and all the people coming from opera and all the other theaters. However, when COVID hit, that was the worst possible location. There was nobody there in the hotels. It was all boarded up.
Yes.
All the offices were empty. All the shoppings were only through Amazon and such. No entertainment. So that was the hardest moment for me.
Yeah, that's actually, COVID was, you actually opened during COVID.
Yeah.
What was your experience?
So, Etam is a fairly sort of large endeavor. It was 2 or 3 years in the making. In my wildest dreams, I did not think I would be launching into COVID. I basically opened the restaurant in February of 2020, and a month later I had to shut the restaurant
No way.
because of COVID. And so, it was very expensive. We raised a lot of money, and you launched this sort of iconic restaurant in the middle of downtown Palo Alto, Indian restaurant that, and then COVID hits, and nothing can prepare you for that. So, but we survived that, and I think that's why I'm here. And both of us have decided to kind of make a go of it because we believe that if we could survive that, then we can survive anything. So, I mean, COVID has been a very, very sort of it has been a journey, it has been a huge learning experience, and we've had to pivot the model and really sort of evolve with every day, trying to, think on our feet as to how we can survive.
I think besides the fact that the client was missing, you also had employees that were hard to get. I heard that a lot of employees had to leave, went to Central Valley and started working as agricultural workers, and then they came back. Did you have a problem with getting employees?
So I think that, and I'm going to let Chef speak to that as well. When we had to close because of COVID, we had to make a decision as to what to do with all the people that we had hired. And so delivery was our way, even though we had no plans to start in delivery. We had to very quickly pivot to delivery and learn what delivery meant for a restaurant of that size that was so predominantly about the dining experience. And so we wanted very, very much to at least retain our back of house. And so we used delivery as a way to retain the back of house, but then we had to let go of the entire front of house because obviously there was no dining. So
True. Ranjan, you were going to say that you too retained a core crew, like Aisha.
Well, COVID is one of the hardest things which has happened in my life. Growing up, I have been a businessman since I've been 26 years old. I opened my first restaurant when I was 26 in Hong Kong, and I'm 65 now. So as a businessman, as a individual small business owner, I've always made sure there are times when it is so hard. You're hurting. You're crying, you don't have anybody to turn to. I've made sure I always wipe my own tears. I've never asked anybody to wipe my tears because I know that's when somebody will feel they can ask for something back. During the COVID, it changed. I didn't know what to do. The first 90 days, there was no help. I had depleted all my savings. My core staff of 6 has been with me for 27 years. So I had to take care of them. These are the defining moments. And that is when Cody, my wife, my two daughters said, Dad, you can ask for help. So I did a GoFundMe for the first time in my life, not for myself, but for the restaurant staff. And I was so surprised. People wiped my tears without wanting anything back. We raised $35,000. That is what kept us going before PPP kicked in, all the other grants and loans kicked in. And I'm so grateful to my community. That's what made me survive. I mean, we even created a second brand called Curbside Curry, and we dropped the price, we created a new menu, nothing happened because the location is as such, there's nobody there. So it didn't work. But with the community's help, we are more stronger than pre-COVID now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great. And the fact is that you're a legacy business and you've had like really your history goes back to what, Bill Clinton coming to your restaurant?
Oh yeah, we have had many, 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 many. And one of the secrets in my restaurant, after a celebrity leaves, I write the name under the chair.
No way.
Nobody else knows it now. Of course, everybody knows it now.
I'm gonna lift,
Yes, we don't want people to come to the restaurant and turn over the chair. No, it is very funny that another day I would say about 6 weeks back, I get a call, Ranjan, I'm coming. I'm like, okay, who is this? Okay, like, I'll be there for lunch. Like, now we're not open for lunch, only for dinner. And he could understand that I didn't know who this was. In my mind, oh my God, did I set up a tasting for a wedding and I forgot, or what is going on? And it's like, this is Tony. Like, okay, Tony. And then I recognize his voice. It's Anthony Hopkins. You're like, oh shit. I never call him Tony, And he loves our lemon mustard fish tikka. I have a blend, lemon mustard blend, which I created from the inspiration of Maharani of Kuch Bihar, who was way before her time to fight women's lib. In 1887, she fought so that women could go to school too. Before that, in Pathshala, only boys could go.
You know that the Maharani of Kuch Bihar is the mother of Maharani Gayatri Devi.
Yes,
So,
yes.
But that brings me to and Princess of Baroda. This brings me to an important point because Ranjan has mentioned the mustard fish, and that's also a very Bengali thing. We just associate mustard with Bengal. So, how do you design a menu? And I'm going to ask Chef that because I guess you have to keep the staples of the butter chicken crowd. But how do you introduce the new elements? How do you design what's on your menu?
Thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces here. Hi, Nick. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. What did you do? How many do that? One of our biggest investors, it's also Aisha's husband, Nikesh. I mean, his first thing when we were doing testing and trying all those things 3 years ago, I said, you have butter chicken on the menu.
And I specifically said I am not a butter chicken restaurant. So, and then Nikesh proceeded to create a part of the menu where this butter chicken is. Now it's our butter chicken.
He actually offered me, let's work together on that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
But it's the most popular dish on your menu, right?
Sorry?
The butter chicken is the most sold item on your menu.
I think it's you put on the menu, it becomes popular.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't need to market that stuff. Like, so coming back to the question, how do you put on the question again?
How do you decide what to put on your menu?
It starts from branding point, how you brand the place.
Yeah.
If you brand it in a way that you sell butter chicken and dollar, you only sell that. You brand it somewhere in the middle, sell more, and that's exactly what we did. We're kind of a progressive Caribbean kind of story. So there, and also it's not a small 60-seater restaurant. It's actually a 200-seater restaurant. So obviously you have to please the mass, then you have to please the foodies. So you got to have all those mix. So when we designed the menu, we made a point to have 20% of your your classics, Indian classic stuff. It's always there. We call it like comfort side of the menu, the back behind the
Absolutely,
menu,
absolutely.
and then we had innovative ideas in front of the menu. So basically, a good mix.
So you know what? There is a Anita. I'm so sorry we are going on talking about food, but we will.
I am here to enjoy this company. I'm happy where I am.
No, because the thing is that with wine and spices, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, but can I start off by saying
You
my
might need the
sorry.
mic. Yeah,
I always believe my voice carries through. This is better.
I think we need it more for the recording.
So my journey in food and wine started with this unforgettable dinner that I had at the restaurant of Jose Andre. Um, my God, my inspiration. And I'm not saying this because he's sitting next to me, but Srijit's food is nothing less. Every time I've had your food, he knows that. I'm a fangirl of his food. What I love about what Srijit does is, at the time, because that's so different from what you did at Taj, is it does not take you out of the story of having Indian food. Because a lot of Indian fusions, somehow it takes you out of that story.
Yes.
But with him, it's still Indian. It's still Indian at heart. And then there comes that layer of creativity that's Srijit. So thank you for continuing to be that inspiration for me.
It is actually very true. Yeah.
No, no, I can vouch that is very true because when he came to Taj, the ex-chef Curry wasn't an easy guy to deal with. My gosh. And I have worked with Chef Curry because I do a lot of Indian weddings and I do it over there where he is now. And he was not an easy person to work with. But he continued and he conquered. And I'm so proud of you.
I did not know that it was a follow-up.
You know what I found very interesting was that dish that you created out of a leaf, right? And you changed the leaf because usually if you go to India, you get the spinach leaf, right? So what leaf did you use? Oh.
It was your turn to talk.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. We got
You
distracted.
talk, and I know clearly I can describe the dish. It's a sesame dish. There's chard on top of it. Oh my God. It looks like a lotus leaf. It's the best presentation of chard. That's how much I love this food. We can talk about your food all day long. I'm good with it.
In fact, that is why I brought it up because I had gone to Neeta's. By the way, if you ever want a class one experience of wine tasting, Neeta is your person for that. And when I had gone to her place, she told me about that dish. And she said, I said, Neeta, can you come? I want to do a wine tasting for my friends. And she said, I love Isan. And I said, what does that have to do with wine tasting for my friends? And she said, I'll just come for that. And so I remember that. But you were telling us about the wine and the spice pairings.
So LXV is a very, it's a personal project. My husband and I, we started this about 12 years ago. And the idea was, we are very Bordeaux fanatics. So the idea was to create Bordeaux wines in the Paso Robles terroir. But having done that, the sort of thought in our minds and in our hearts was, where are we in this? What's our connection to this? What are we bringing to the table that's Nida and that's Canal? And that's really how the idea of pairing our wines with spices came from. And when I say spices, we are Indian, so people naturally assume it's Indian spices, but we actually indulge in flavors from all over the world. So right now we have a right bank Bordeaux blend that pairs with a Irish seaweed called dulce flakes and pink peppercorn. And then we have our only Indian spice blend on the menu, which is chai spice that pairs with a left bank porter. Uh, so that's where the inspiration came from, but it was a little bit more than that. It allows people to pause and have a context for the tasting. When you're talking about wine tasting, there are somewhere between 600 to 2,000 flavors in a glass of wine. So you might as well call wine infinite. So how do we expect you, when you're tasting wine, to take in a couple of sips and understand not only the taste and the expression, but the intent of what you're doing? So it's always great to change the context a little bit. The context can be time, company, music, food is very, very strong as a context. So when people pair our wines with spices, which was actually named top 10 wine experiences in America by USA Today, so it was a great honor for us. And it makes them, it shifts their perspective, not only to indulge in that wine in a little bit more depth, but also to think about wine not singularly as Bordeaux or Burgundy, but more on a global scale. Because now you have a right bank Bordeaux wine that pairs with a seaweed that comes from northern shores of Ireland. And so they start making these connections and understanding that we're now in a global experience, no matter what the experience is.
I remember coming many years ago, maybe 5, and you had like a little masala box with a little black pepper, and you were making me smell that and then taste the wine. And are you still doing that?
Um, the idea is to make you forget when you walk into LXV, and I feel that in the town too. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland. Is I want people to have that feeling. Is when you come in there, they drop the context of they are in a wine tasting, and they literally surrender their senses because they don't know what to make of what we do, and that's very important, especially in wine where there are 350 to 400 wineries just in Paso Robles. And so it's very important when they walk into our doors that they give us a very unbiased chance. So the spices, the flavors from all over the world, smelling them, tasting them, it's a great way for them to drop their guard, and then they're open to whatever we want their experience to be like.
So, when I was looking at restaurants, I think one of our friends was opening one in Monterey. Your beverages are like 30% of your bill, right? I would say. And with takeout during COVID, and now I think 40% of food orders in restaurants are takeout. Would you agree, Ranjan?
Not for me. People come to my restaurant for experience. We don't do too much takeout. We focus on that. But talking about what Nita was saying, it all depends upon the composition of your clients.
Mhm.
In my restaurant, I have people coming from Ludhiana, the remote village, you know, and, and also people from Paris, people from all over the Bay Area. It's what we're expecting. What are you expecting? People have different palate profiles. Somebody is just expecting butter chicken and dal and nothing else. And they want to taste that just like their mother made or just like it is available in their corner store. And I can't do it. This is my kitchen. You're coming to my restaurant to taste my food. And it is very difficult to make them understand that. And that's where there is like, no appreciation from, I would say, about 12% of the guests. But I'm so happy that the other majority loves what we do. So that is where we struggle sometimes. And everything today is not word of mouth, is based on reviews.
Yes.
So everybody goes, everybody is a
Food critic.
food critic.
Everyone's a food
So
critic.
then you have to just fight this all the time, which is another extra job. So I am not just the Patrick Swayze of Roadhouse, but I am also somebody who has to constantly ask my patrons to give me a review, because that if I don't, it's only those 12% is going to write nasty things
Yeah.
about us, and it's going to take us down.
Good point, and I just wanted to touch on
Yes.
speaking of what do you like in a restaurant, you just have people. I mean, it's almost like if you have 500 people eating in a night, 400 people eating, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just have 500 different ways of what do you call it, critiquing what you eat. So I was just talking to a table of 6 people 2 days ago, and they had like different things to say. I mean, most of them are good. And so I asked a question to him: how many of you at your home? Where did you grow up? India. Okay. How many of you at your home? Like 6 siblings. Okay. So plus 2, 8, mom and dad. So how many days did you have conversation about I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it? So 8 people. How many of you always agree on everything you had? At least one did not like it. So that's what 10%, 12%. So I have at your home, what your mom made, your 12% of the people did not like what you made. So I can have an actually 10% of people not liking what you had. Not necessarily it's bad or good, but I mean, it's going to be that it's food, it's personal, you know.
Yes.
So it's impossible to create food for everybody every day like they would like it. I see that all the time. Sometimes it hurts.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not
gosh.
your mom.
Yeah.
You know, even mom gets it 10% off.
No, I remember.
And
Yes, ma'am.
to that point, I think that people tend to, because restaurants tend to be such emotional experiences, and people come there to kind of celebrate, and they're at their critical best, you know. So, and the people that are the ones that get upset are the ones that are more likely to leave a review than the ones that are happy, because then you're happy, you forget, you're not in the mood of writing a review. So it just skews towards someone that is not had a good experience.
How,
Question there.
well, the thing, I think Kirti is going to moderate. We have how much more time? Oh, we have so much to talk. I do remember when the iPhone came out, and I remember reading the statistic that not only do you have to prepare good food, but the food has to look good, because people are spending more time taking pictures of the phone, and then the average number of sittings have dropped because people are spending longer at the table because they're taking pictures.
Yes.
And then you have Instagrammable locations that you must build, right? And then it's takeout. 40% is takeout. So
For us, it's 10% takeout.
okay,
Less than 10%.
Maybe less, yeah.
And yeah, not even 10%.
Mhm.
yeah, you have my sympathies. It's a tough business to please everyone, but you guys are
Yeah.
doing a great job.
And while you're taking photograph, food is getting cold.
Yeah.
Think about the other guy who's watching the guy taking the photograph.
Yeah. And then they tell you the food is cold. You served it cold. You're like, no, we did not serve you cold.
Sometimes the steam spoils the picture if it's too hot. There's another very interesting story, since we have only 4 minutes, that Neeta has to tell us of what is behind your name with LXV. It's like Roman numeral letters.
So LXV is 65 in Roman numerals, and the genesis of LXV is the 64 sutras, the art forms, the colors that form the fabric of our Indian culture. So the story goes back to when Lord Krishna, after defeating Kamsa, he went to the house of this sadhu and learned 24 colors and 24, I think something to do with warfare. And if you think about our Indian culture, it's a fabric, it's an interwoven fabric, all these colors, music, dance, feng shui, architecture, painting, making your bed, believe it or not, that is a color. And so LXV, the story of our wine, we call it the 65th sutra, hence LXV. But it's a little bit deeper than that. That's sort of the logical connection. But for us, it's an opportunity, it's a chance to tap into our roots every single day. LXV is not our it's not our brand, it's our purpose. So it's not what we show to the world that, oh, this is inspired by the 64 sutras and the Indian culture. No, it's what inspires us. So every time we think about something, we think in the whole artistic paradigm of those sutras and thinking what we are creating. It could be one, the experience, even an email going out. The paradigm always is, are we creating something that's sensory, that's memorable, and something that people feel aspirational?
I remember when I first saw it, I was thinking like, what is LXV, and am I, does it have like an expanded, very, and when you explained it to me, I was kind of blown away. I'm trying to see what are my questions that I don't want to miss, and one of them, which I was going to end with, but I'm going to ask now, is what do you do with the leftovers?
Sadly, they just get thrown away.
We take our leftovers to the Glide Memorial, and they but the way my restaurant works, we work really, because we have been doing it for 34 years from the same location. So we know how much we're going to sell, how much we're not going to sell, but it's not a finite art still. It changes. So we have volunteers coming from Glide Memorial, because our bar is also designed in a way, it's kind of the home bar for everybody who works in downtown restaurants and all the offices and, Glide Memorial and so on. So they come to our restaurant all the time anyway to drink, and our bar remains open up to 2 in the morning. So we have very good relationship with them. So they will come pick it up.
I see. I see. Well, you can't sell stale bread for $1 like Safeway does, I guess.
No, no stale naan. No stale naan.
Oh, at the table. No, I mean in the kitchen.
Oh, in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we try and minimize
it.
to be planned so well, because
Yeah.
you can. It's the most difficult part is can you plan? So when you have when you have the luxury of having the restaurant running, have a number in mind, and you can meet those numbers, then it's very easy to plan.
Yeah.
We always have a little leftover here and there. That we also have post service meal. It's over that. Most of it is over that, and a little bit. I mean, it's sometimes it's not substantial enough to, like Ranjan said, to give it to somebody. It's not sizable enough to give it. So we end up either letting people take it home. Right.
It's almost like eating an ice cream cone, I'm told.
Just don't bite into it.
Don't bite into it. It's like an ice cream cone.
Knife is a thing. Knife is not mine. So yeah, it's not sizable enough to actually hand it over to somebody. So we let people take home.
Okay.
And we also have a post service meeting. So if you ask me how much do it's horrible to throw away food. I mean, it's not it's sad. So when we have multiple locations, if we have enough stuff to do it, we will have a plan for that. Right now, we don't.
I see.
Yeah.
So these are all
If I can add,
yes.
I'm married to a Punjabi.
Yes.
So no leftover wine in my house. No.
But you can store wine if you open a bottle, right? You can just pump. Do you have to pump out the air?
There is a new technology called Corbin.
Huh.
Yeah, it's very expensive, but it does preserve the wines beautifully.
And so, does anyone want to know about this technology?
Very quick, 1 minute. They should pay me for this. It's expensive, but this is what it does. You don't open the cork. It's actually a needle that goes into, so it's an aspiration system. Oxygen displaced by argon cartridges. Don't do it on a Safeway wine, but if you have gone to a winery that's like precious, it means something to you, and you want to taste it over a period of time, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of equipment to have.
After the patient just drops like a small.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just basically like
It's
a needle.
It was actually created by a neurosurgeon, rightfully enough. Yes.
So it's just like a needle that goes into the core.
It goes in, and it's an aspirator. It displaces. It's like a shot.
Yeah.
It displaces the oxygen.
Okay.
Fills it with argon, and it's a very certain finite amount of wine that pours out, which again being Marato Punjabi, the amount of cartridges we go through because it's like shot. Like, why are we even using a cartridge? Let's just pull out the cork.
No, actually, I was thinking the same thing because sometimes what happens is if somebody gives me a box of mithai and I will eat one piece and then I will hide it so no one else gets it. So if you get a really nice bottle of wine and you are the only one who wants to drink a glass every day,
Yes,
can you
it's
do
beautiful.
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well
It's
then
gorgeous.
you know I'm a Punjabi.
Yeah.
I have the same problem with mine.
There you go.
So I think, do we still have time? We are done, is it? Oh, I had so many questions.
We'll leave it to Q&A.
Yes, how about that? Yeah.
Answer, and thank you everyone.
So, you know what?
We'd love to hear from the chefs and the panelists, Aisha and Nita as well. I'm sure you enjoyed the conversation, and we'll open it up for 10 minutes for Q&A.
If you want your questions to for the thing, it would be a good idea to ask them, or we can repeat them. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, can I pass the mic?
You know what? It has a wire, so okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think one of the restaurant trends that I think that's happening, I want to just get comment from this panel on. One is in Los Altos, those, I don't know if it's gone, but there's
Marketplace.
yeah, the straight street where you can do combined ordering of a group and get to the we did have them. That concept, if you all think that's going to catch on more. The other is, I think, virtual restaurants. We know, like, when we were on a road trip, one restaurant that was actually had multiple menus, and then they would literally from one kitchen serve, this kind of cuisine, that kind of thing, that like multiple cuisines.
So the cloud kitchen and the marketplace, is it where the industry is heading?
Sure. I think that, and I know about virtual restaurants. I think that whether it's virtual restaurants or cloud kitchens or a certain level of automation that we're seeing, those are directions that the pandemic has um, created, in a way because the dining experience changed. And so, yeah, those are trends that we are seeing. We are very sort of dine-in focused, but at the same time, we are also creating a commissary kitchen where we can take some of the pressure off the kitchen and it complements the restaurant. So, yeah.
Yeah, that whole idea are created by people who are not in the restaurant business. It's a profit motivated, you know, like program where they can fleece everything off the people who are actually making the food. So I'm not very great at that because you don't really have anything which you can be proud of.
So what do you mean by fleece everything?
Meaning that all the cloud kitchens and everybody will take 60% of what you're doing.
Oh, you mean the owner of the cloud kitchen will skim off from the chefs?
Yeah, it is a whole company, which is several companies like Cloud Kitchen. So no, I'm not interested at all.
Shri, you wanted to say something?
I was just talking about the first person, the state street market idea in Los Angeles. It's actually, I think it's a good idea. I'm not talking about the cloud. I know you're angry now.
No. I'm not angry. It's just what it is, you know.
My point is about the multiple cuisine and it's a one-stop shop
Yeah.
for your mom for dal and dad for butter chicken and son for pizza kind of a situation.
Yeah,
It's
that's
actually a
different.
fun thing on a Sunday afternoon or you jump out of the office and go pick some pizza. Those kind of things, if it is located in the right places, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You can't have it in a corner in Saratoga. I don't think it works. Los Altos, I mean, I would say Palo Alto. I feel it's something like it's a concept out of the amazing concept of Italy, where Italian food, that kind of thing. But I think it is a little more well defined and well done. Probably we get that somewhere, and this is something which we and I should once talked about, once about it, maybe someday. I don't know. It's an amazing thing. I thought you can have pizza to smoothie to salads to butter chicken. You got all kinds of options. I think it is an amazing option. And plus, it's also if it's done well, you're not spending a lot of your maybe it's not a appropriate sit down formal dinner place, but enjoy it.
I remember going to Time Out Market in New York, and
Oh yeah.
interestingly, the one in Santana Row, the Singapore, is it Straits Cafe?
Yeah.
When they first opened in Santana Row, I don't know if you remember, in the middle they had one little, like a food stand where you could get the same dishes for much, obviously without the experience. But I don't want to take up your time for questions.
I think we have one waiting. Yes, Mike? Yes.
This question is for Srijit, and Srijit, I ask this question with the utmost respect because you know that I am Professor Kaila's wife, and you almost we asked you to cater our wedding. But we've been going to your restaurant since Taj Fountain, and I see I'm a Punjabi, my husband's a Kerala, so he's very happy with what has happened at Ekan. But I see that your food at Ekan is very, very different. I mean, for reasons, of course, I understand, from what you were serving at Taj Pumpkin. Now, I like my food very mild, and of course, Tom is very happy because he's from Kerala too. But my question is really, I mean, are you now catering this very, the food has, I think, over time started not so spicy, but over time it's gotten spicier and more zesty and spicier. And so I said, Tom is very happy, but my question to you is, are you catering to the least common denominator, or is this the true Srijat coming out?
Not really. I mean, I've not intentionally done that. There are certain things. I mean, I always feel that people say there are certain dishes. It's not ideal to tone it down, and that's constant complaint about. If you see our reviews, you see there's always some. You always see negative reviews on any restaurant, but you always see most of the reviews will be it's toned down, it's watered. I mean, that kind of a review. So it's not something which is very pleasing to hear. And plus, I also noticed one thing last 15, 16 years of being there. I right now I don't feel like we should cook for Americans because Americans are understanding Indian food. They've understood it. They like it the way Indian food is. So any more watering will actually be it's a bad idea. I mean, I think we should try and get close to the authentic, as close as you can get. So that's one of the things. I don't think it deliberately added some chili, but but we are trying to move towards, and that's the way it is going to be. I feel, but there's always room for milder food in the menu because at least 30% of the menu will be on the milder side. If you look at any
Can I say something as a fan, Verlin, and a customer of Gigi's? Is his food at Canton Place, because I guess it was so Michelin oriented, was very, it's very singular because that's what Michelin restaurants are supposed to do, is have like a very Puritan expression of it, and it's very focused, and I think Etan is very expressive. That's how I look at Etan. The food is very expressive. It's the Indian vibe, the intensity, the color, the passion. And I think I'm married to a Punjabi and I'm a Malayali too. And I think his food to me is not spicy, but it's very expressive. And that's like a high. It's a high to have this food.
So just one second. So I call it Cal Indian. So it depends on where you stress the word. If you stress it in Cal, it'll soft. So it'll milder, and if you stress it on the Indian, it becomes a little more sharper. That's what it is. So the camping place is Cal Indian. The guitar is Cal Indian.
I like that.
Actually, for that question, actually, thank you for that question because it actually rounds off very nicely where I started, in which I said that there's 35 years between the opening of Ranjan's first restaurant and your first restaurant, and in those 35 years, the consumer has become very well traveled, and the world has shrunk, and people are wanting more authentic. And gone are the days when the curries needed to be watered down for the palate. That's how I thought.
I have all the materials. I actually put it. I have all the materials for a book, but I didn't got a chance to sit down. Thank you.
So the 3:30 panel is with the cookbook authors, and you could aspire to that, chef.
One of my good friends actually, Nick, is like, I saw him.
Yes, that's the next panel, I think. Yeah. Should, yes.
But no, but so what are your views on? I've been reading about Michelin star restaurants. It's like the presentation is almost as important as the food itself. You can't get a Michelin star if the food is terrific. Maybe it's the presentation. Presentation is something that the Michelin judges really look at. What is your philosophy, or what do you really think is that person?
So the question really is about Michelin star, and that does it require more than food to be tasty? Does it have to look good as well? And what does chef have to say to that?
Yeah. Personally, yeah. Whoever wants to find.
Yeah.
I'll start. You've seen both sides of it. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Presentation is important because you don't, when you see the food, actually you see through your eyes, you're eating through your eyes. It has to look good. It doesn't have to look oddly good. It has to look abstractly, naturally good, organically good. That's some people take the presentation to the next level of mockery. This looks too much. The presentation is not good. Presentation is important, but Michelin star is mostly. I mean, I've had Michelin stars for fortunately or unfortunately. I was fortunate enough to have for almost 10 or 12 years. So one thing I've noticed is consistency. They look at consistency so much, and I can talk about that because I've had single stars and I got with 2 stars, lost a star, and I didn't got it back. So I've got this whole thing of how I lost. So I had an interview with the master because they were kind enough to actually call me and say why he lost it once. So that's one of those things. He said there's something at some point one of the menus lack consistency, and I think it took a lot of work consistency of food, and they focus so much on food. Presentation, yes, adds up to like 5 or 6 points out of 100.
Ranjan, you had something to say?
Make it look like calligraphy. Not necessarily. I mean, there are so many people who actually just hit mango calligraphy and not had a Michelin star forever. I know people who create those between calligraphies and not been getting it.
I think Ranjan wanted to say something.
My point of view on Michelin star is very different. I don't want a Michelin star. When I build a restaurant, I don't build it, oh, I will get a Michelin star and that will allow my business to flourish. No, I do it for my market. I do it for the clients who are going to come to my restaurant. As soon as I get a Michelin star, I put so much extra pressure on my staff, they stop enjoying what they're doing. So I don't want to be a part of that. I mean, that's just my thing. Everybody has different ways of doing that.
I agree. I don't think any of us, in fact, build a restaurant thinking that we get. So many people have asked me in passing that we're going to be getting Michelin star. No, we didn't build it for any star. I mean, it happens sometimes. I don't know what the story is because I've never seen one Michelin inspector in my life. I don't know who that guy is. It could be one of you guys. So we have no idea. They come in, they eat. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, this happened. So,
It's like Michelin is the mother-in-law.
no. Shit, I mean, so Ranjan is so right because it is a lot of pressure. It's so much pressure. Post. I was just watching something on Gordon Ramsay saying it was so difficult. It was so difficult to get my third star when you got a third star for this restaurant, and it was like 10 times more difficult to maintain that third star. So how to do that?
Yeah.
I think we
So
should.
we have just one more question.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What's your favorite dish on your menu?
What's your favorite dish on your menu?
Or I keep changing every season.
Yeah.
Smart answer. But I mean, if you ask me what are the ingredients, I'll see. I'm from Kerala, coastal area, lovely. So always have some kind of seafood going on.
I'm in touch with my feminine side, so I change my mind all the time.
We all watched Roman Holiday, right? And she's asked in the end which was your favorite place, and she said each in its own way. And so
That's all the time we have.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ritu.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so much.